Part 10. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 91. Mrs. Zhang didn't know what Ling Chu had shown village chief Wang. Seeing him suddenly getting so angry, she felt a little uneasy. She frowned and said vaguely, "My Daking is not at home." Village chief Wang clutched the sale deed in his hand. He couldn't suppress his anger no matter how much he did. He didn't care about Mrs. Zhang's face and said angrily, "Daking is not at home, where are you?" Seeing the village chief being so angry, Mrs. Lu on the side quickly explained with a smile, "A few days ago, that girl from Xiaji said that she fell in love with a rich man in the capital and wanted to marry him. While we were not at home, she secretly left a letters, elopement. Dong Qiao's father was worried that she would suffer a loss and went to Beijing every day to look for her. No, he entered the city again early this morning. Unexpectedly, the girl came back on her own during Xiaji. Ling Chu looked at Mr. Lu coldly and said, make it up, you will know what it feels like to be slapped in the face later." Sure enough, as soon as Mrs. Lu finished speaking, village chief Wang immediately became furious and said, "Ms. Lu, you still dare to lie. It was obviously you who sold that girl Xiaji, yet you still dare to talk nonsense here." "Oh, village chief, I'm not talking nonsense. Even Dong Qiao's father knows this, otherwise he wouldn't run to Beijing every day to find that girl regardless of his hard work." He had obtained all the evidence, but Ms. Lu still dared to speak harshly. Village chief Wang wanted to strangle her to death. Why did their good Wangjia village end up with such a scum? Village chief Wang held the sale contract in front of Ms. Liu's eyes and said, "Ms. Liu, you still dare to quibble. Although I am not old, I am not blind yet. This is the sale contract from Xiaji, and your family Xia Daking is on it." Liu's expression suddenly changed, and she glared at Ling Chu as if she wanted to eat her alive. "Who is this girl? How could she have that dead girl's contract?" Ling Chu raised his lips. The deeds of sale found in Boss Yao's house were all evidence of the crime of that group of traffickers. Originally, they were all handed over to Dali Temple. Before departure, she made a special trip to Dali Temple and lent them out in the name of Master Ning. Thinking that her son's wedding was approaching, Mrs. Lu rolled her eyes and wiped her tears in grievance at village chief Wang. "This marriage contract must be a fake. Dong Qiao's father and I have always regarded that girl Xiaji as a pain in the eyes. How could it be possible to sell her?" Mrs. Zhang also smiled at village chief Wang and said, "I'm afraid it's all a misunderstanding. Her parents are gone in Xiaji. My Daking and Lu family have always been taking care of her. They definitely can't do such a thing." Some women who couldn't stand Zhang's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law sneered and said, "What misunderstanding? We just heard you say with our own ears that the last time we sold Xiaji to a trafficker, we got 80 taels of silver, which was all given to Dong Qiao as a betrothal gift. You even plan to sell her to someone who trains skinny horses. We really heard this." Xiaji, who was standing aside, suddenly said to the village chief, "Grandpa Wang, the sale contract is true. In order to seize the property my parents left me, my second uncle and second aunt put a drug in the tea I drank and knocked me unconscious. Later sold to human traffickers. Now, the land and land deeds left to me by my parents have been snatched away by my second aunt and the others. The house left by my parents has also been occupied by my cousin and used as a wedding room." Mrs. Liu's background was exposed in public and she was so angry that she jumped up and down. "Xiaji, please don't slander me. We haven't taken the things your parents left you. Isn't your house there? You can't be unjust your cousin." As soon as Ms. Lu finished speaking confidently, she didn't expect to be slapped in the face by her good son. Xia Dong Qiao's legs were hit twice by Ling Chu. It hurt when he walked. He finally limped back. Before he could enter the house, he shouted angrily, "Mom, that girl from Xiaji is back. She said she wanted to take the house back, but you can't agree. I'm getting married next month. You made an agreement with your father and grandma, and the house in my uncle's house will belong to me from now on. Xia Dongqiao had no idea that the village chief and the others were at his home. When he finished speaking hurriedly, he limped into the yard and was stunned on the spot. Mrs. Lu looked furious. She didn't expect that the thing she was trying so hard to cover up would be stabbed clean by her son in the blink of an eye. Mr. Zhang glared at her grandson with an expression of hatred. She really failed to achieve anything but failed. Ms. Lu, your son has personally admitted that you have plotted to seize Xiaoji's property, so don't even think about denying it. Take out the things quickly and return them to Xiaoji. Mrs. Lu glared at Ling Chu fiercely and turned to Xiaoji. Xiaoji, you have to speak with your conscience. Where else is there anything left in your family? Your father broke his leg and had no money to treat it, so it was your second uncle who we helped him pay for the medicine. Seeing that your family couldn't afford it, for the sake of the whole family, we never asked your mother for it. Your father had been away for several years, and your mother had been ill. Even if all the land was sold, it wouldn't be enough to provide her with medical advice. Over the years, your second uncle and I have spent a lot of money to buy medicine for your mother's illness. For the sake of our family, your second uncle and I have never asked you for a tael of silver. Now the only thing left in your family is that house. You will get married sooner or later anyway, so it would be a waste to keep that house empty. Your brother Dong Qiao is getting married soon. Why not lend him the house for a while and then move out when he builds a new house? From now on, you will live in my house with your sister Xinghua. Xiaoji was very angry at Liu's remark. Whether it was his father breaking his leg or her mother seeking medical advice, it never cost them half a penny. Seeing that Xiaoji was so angry that she couldn't speak, Mrs. Lu snorted coldly in her heart. Damn girl, you're a little too young to fight with her. Ms. Lu was feeling proud when she didn't expect a loud noise suddenly came from behind her, making her tremble. Village Chief Wang and the others were also startled, and they all looked towards the place where the sound came from. I saw the girl who came with Xiaoji, holding a small hammer in her hand, standing at the door of Mrs. Liu's room. The two door panels that were originally locked by Lu fell to the ground. Seeing them looking over, the girl raised her small hammer with a smile and said innocently, "Well, I accidentally threw the hammer away just now, and I didn't expect it to break the door." Village Chief Wang and the others looked at the door panel on the ground, and then at the small hammer in her hand, with doubtful expressions on their faces. The hammer looked only 2 inches long, the handle was no thicker than a chopstick, and even the hammer head was only as big as a quail egg. Can such a small hammer, so fragile that they can break it with one finger, break those 2 door panels? When Mrs. Lu saw the smashed door panel, she rushed towards Ling Chu with a cry, "You bitch, you broke my door, can you afford to pay for it?" Ling Chu raised the corners of his mouth and waved his hands in a panic, Don't hit me. I told you it was accidental. At worst, I will help you put it back." No one saw a pebble flinging quickly towards the bottom of Ms. Liu's skirt from her panicked hand. Lu was halfway through the rush when the sole of his foot slipped and he fell onto his back with a thud. Thanks to book friends Qianxiao, 120402185344862, 202303061958333531, 20230601621658, it's Kikmu, / don't cry, don't make trouble, don't show off, pros. BA, Bingling, 82876769, Tianyulan, and Yunwu Sishishan for their strong support. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 92. Those women who had no dealings with Mr. Lu saw her lying on the ground stretched out for a long time, unable to get up, and they covered their lips and gloated and laughed. Mother Zhang glared at Mrs. Lu angrily, and was about to signal Xinghua to help her mother up. Ling Chu suddenly exclaimed over there, waving his hands at Mr. Lu in a panic, "Why are you staring at me so fiercely? I didn't cause you to fall." Lu, who was in so much pain that her eyes were filled with stars, wanted to strangle Ling Chu to death. What nonsense is this talking about? When did she ever stare at her? Village Chief Wang and the others saw that Ms. Liu's fall was a bit heavy, and they felt a little sympathy for her. It can be seen that she stared at the innocent girl so fiercely, and the sympathy that had just arisen in her heart immediately disappeared. Ling Chu deliberately smiled proudly at Mr. Lu while no one was paying attention. When she glared over, she immediately put on a frightened look. "You, stop staring, I really didn't make you fall, I was still 2 feet away from you." Some women who couldn't stand Ms. Lu couldn't help but said, "Ms. Lu, don't think of relying on other girls. We can see clearly that it was you who fell down and it has nothing to do with other girls." Ms. Lu didn't faint from the fall, but she was so angry that she almost pushed her over on the spot. Just when she wanted to get up and tell everyone that she was wronged, she didn't even glare at that bitch. Ling Chu raised the corners of his lips. Seeing her getting up angrily, he hurriedly said, "You, don't hit me. I'll help you put the door panel back together." Mrs. Gao and the others couldn't bear it when they saw that Ling Chu was so frightened by Mrs. Lu. He was about to step forward to help her and put the door panel back together. Unexpectedly, the girl tripped over the threshold and stumbled. With a slip of his hand, the small hammer suddenly swung towards the room. There was a crash, and by accident, a big hole was made in a walnut-colored cabinet placed against the wall. Village Chief Wang and the others looked at the cabinet with a hole in it with their mouths open. I saw a wooden box placed on the upper level of the cabinet. It shook twice and fell to the ground with a thud. A pile of things rolled out of the torn box. Ling Chu's eyes flashed with a smile, he was quite satisfied with this blow. Liu's expression changed when she saw the thing falling out, and she immediately rushed into the room. Ling Chu stepped forward quickly and quickly picked up the papers. "Oops, I'm sorry, my hand slipped. Hey, isn't this the deed of Xiaoji's house?" Ling Chu said apologetically, but quickly opened the contract without any politeness. "You bitch, don't touch my things, get out of here right away." Ms. Lu rushed into the house angrily and cursed. Ling Chu raised his eyes and glanced at her quietly, but said nothing. Just when Ms. Lu crossed the threshold with one foot, she quickly kicked a small piece of broken boxboard on the ground with her toes. Ms. Lu watched helplessly as the board flew towards her feet. She wanted to avoid it, but it was too late. The sole of my foot slipped and there was a pop. Another one fell down. Liu's fat body just blocked the sight of Village Chief Wang and the others behind them, and with the threshold blocking it, no one noticed Ling Chu's little moves at all. They all thought that Lu accidentally tripped over the threshold in his panic. The women who were watching were gloating that Ms. Lu was really unlucky. She had fallen a lot today. Ling Chu suppressed the smile on his lips and turned to wave to Xiaoji, "Come here and see if this is your family's land deed." When Ms. Lu heard this, she was angry and anxious. She struggled to stand up and stop him. But her foot was sprained, and it hurt terribly when she moved. Ms. Zhang was secretly annoyed that Ms. Lu was useless. Although she wanted to step forward to stop him, her old arms and legs couldn't run fast, so she could only signal Xia Dongqiao to go forward and the things back. Xia Dongqiao received Ms. Zhang's hint and just raised his feet when he saw the small hammer in Ling Chu's hand and shuddered instantly. He had been hit twice by the small hammer before, and his leg was still aching. He is getting married next month, and if he gets beaten up again, he might really become a cripple. For some reason, although Xia Dongqiao thought that girl looked like a fairy, he felt that she was very evil. When Ms. Lu saw Xiaoji running in, she wanted to reach out and grab her. But Xiaoji dodged and quickly stepped forward to take the contract from Ling Chu's hand. Xiaoji's eyes immediately turned red when she saw her father's name on it, second aunt, Didn't you say you didn't take anything from my house? What are these? Village Chief Wang stepped forward to take the deed from Xiaoji and found that it was indeed the house deed and land deed of Xiaoji's house. Both contracts have her father Xia Yuxin's signature and fingerprints on them. I didn't expect Mrs. Lu to be so vicious. Not only did she sell her unconscious niece to a trafficker, but she actually took the other person's house as her own. Ms. Lu glanced at the contract in Xiaoji's hand distressedly, endured the pain in her feet, gritted her teeth and stood up holding onto the wall, wiping her tears and crying out, "Xiaoji, the second aunt just saw that you were not at home. She was afraid that your home would be robbed, so she thought I'm here to help you keep the land deed. I don't want to take it for myself. You can't wrong my second aunt." In order to prevent Liu's reputation of trying to steal her niece's property from spreading and ruining her grandson's marriage, Mrs. Zhang quickly stepped forward to explain, "Xiaoji, don't accuse your second aunt unjustly. I saw you were not at home, and I was worried that your things would be stolen. The thief stole it, so I asked your second aunt to keep it for you." Xiaoji knew that her mother had not liked her since she was a child, and only had eyes for the 3 children of her second uncle's family. But she didn't expect that her grandma knew that her second uncle and second aunt were going to sell her to human traffickers, but she didn't stop her. She wanted to take her family's contract as her own, and her grandma tried her best to protect it. Xiaoji glanced at Mrs. Zhang sarcastically. She had never considered her a member of the family. Xiaoji pursed her lips and did not respond to Mrs. Zhang's words. "Put away the 2 deeds, and then go forward and pick up all the things that fell out of the box." Except for 2 50-tael silver notes, she found no land deed to her family. "Second aunt, in addition to the house and land deeds, my parents left me 15 acres of fertile land, 27 acres of middle land, and 130 taels of silver notes. Where are these things?" Mrs. Lu rolled her eyes and warned earnestly, "Xiaoji, my second aunt will help you keep those things. You can live with us from now on. It's not safe for you to live alone. It would be terrible if a petty thief breaks into your house at night. If you live with us, it will be convenient for me, your second uncle, and your nanny to take care of you. You can live in peace of mind and don't have to worry about the things your parents left for you being stolen. You see, is this true?" Ling Chu twitched his lips in silence as he listened to Liu's words to coax Xiaoji. "It seems that I don't want to give back the benefits I got." Ling Chu was too lazy to listen anymore, so he raised his hand. Boom! The small hammer in his hand hit the wall on the side of the cabinet. Asterisk mathematical intersection symbol. Mathematical intersection symbol asterisk, handsome beauties, would you like to vote for a monthly/recommended vote? If not, I'll ask again later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 Acquaintances. Ms. Lu was spitting and talking enthusiastically when suddenly a loud noise came, startling her and almost biting her tongue. Hurriedly turning around, Lu saw the smashed wall, and the anger in Liu's heart rushed straight to Tianling Gai. Afraid that the secret hidden in the wall would be discovered, Lu rushed over without bothering to persuade Xiaoji. But in her anxiety, she forgot that her foot was sprained. At this move, he immediately collapsed to the ground with an ouch of pain. Mrs. Zhang glared at Mrs. Lu angrily. Her daughter-in-law was useless, so she could only drag her old body to stop her. It's just that her legs were weak, so she could only walk over and curse angrily, "Whose girl are you from? You came to our Xia family to smash things up. Isn't this justified? If you don't get out of our house quickly, I'm going to report myself to the police." After scolding Ling Chu, Mrs. Zhang scolded village chief Wang again. "Wang Qingsong, how did you become the village chief? just watching outsiders come to our Wangjia village to run wild and not say anything about it. Village Chief Wang was raised to the point of being questioned by Mrs. Zhang. He frowned and hesitated for a moment whether to step forward to stop her. Seeing that the village chief was not moving, Mrs. Zhang was afraid that she could not deal with the girl by herself, so she could only signal her granddaughter Xinghua to come forward to help. Xiaoji, however, stepped forward quickly and opened her arms to block Ling Chu. "Nai, Miss Ling is helping me find the land deed." Mother Zhang didn't want to listen to Xiaoji's words, so she took Xinghua and wanted to tear her away. "What land deed? Your family's land deed was sold by your mother for medical treatment a long time ago. Where can I find it? You're a filthy little girl who helps outsiders come and destroy the house. I think you're crazy." Ling Chu glanced at Mrs. Zhang, who was scolding her vigorously. Originally, she only planned to make a hole so that she could take out the wooden box in the wall. It can be seen that Mrs. Zhang not only scolded Xiaoji, but also wanted to beat her. She suddenly changed her mind. The hammer in his hand hit the wall again. Boom! There was a loud noise and everyone was startled. The scene suddenly became silent. Hurrah! Just when everyone turned to look over, large pieces of the wall that Ling Chu had knocked twice fell off. The black lacquered box hidden in the wall was revealed. Ling Chu stretched out his hand and took out the box. "That's my thing, don't take it away." When Mrs. Lu saw the box being taken away, she was so angry that she ignored the pain in her feet and limped forward to it. Mr. Zhang and Xinghua didn't care to fight with Xiaoji anymore, and both stepped forward to grab the box. How could Ling Chu let them it away? When the three of them came over, he stretched out his foot and touched Liu's soul without leaving any trace. Liu's script was sprained from the beginning, and Ling Chu couldn't stand firm after the twist. Seeing that she was about to fall down again, her hand subconsciously grabbed Xinghua beside her. Liu's body is fat, and Xinghua is just a little girl without hair extensions. She is already thin and cannot stand up to her mother's weight. Not only was Ms. Lu unable to stand firm, she even pulled her to the ground. In panic, Xinghua even tripped Mrs. Zhang beside her. The three of them fell down one after another. Ling Chu didn't even look at them. He gave Xiaoji the wooden box in his hand and pulled her out of Mrs. Liu's room. Behind them, Mrs. Zhang and the other two people were still lying on the ground, shouting incessantly. Village Chief Wang and the women watching the excitement looked at each other, but no one came to help Lu and the others. Instead, he gathered around Xiaoji curiously and urged, "Xiaoji, hurry up and open it to see if it's your family's land deed." Xiaoji glanced at Ling Chu excitedly, and when she saw her smiling and nodding towards him, she opened the box. With just one glance, Xiaoji recognized that what was inside was her family's land deed. In addition to the land deed, there are several large and small banknotes in the box. Everyone was gathering together to watch Xiaoji flipping through the contents of the box, when an unhappy voice suddenly came from behind. "So many people are gathering around my yard, what are they doing?" Ling Chu followed the sound and turned his head to look. They found a man glaring at them with a dissatisfied look on his face. Hearing this, Ling Chu guessed that this must be the second uncle from Xiaoji. Sure enough, Village Chief Wang looked up and saw the person coming, and said coldly, "Xia Daking, you are finally back." Xia Daking did not expect that Village Chief Wang would also come to his house, and he was stunned for a moment. Mrs. Lu in the house heard the movement in the yard, got up on her hands and knees, opened her mouth and cried loudly, "Dad Dongqiao, you are back. If you don't come back, we will all be bullied to death." Hearing the sound of his wife's gong breaking, Xia Daking subconsciously looked towards the house and frowned when he saw his mother, wife, and daughter getting up from the ground in a hurry. Xia Daking didn't know what his wife was making so much fuss about, he just felt extremely bored. He ignored Mrs. Lu, but turned around and waved to everyone in the yard, "If nothing is wrong, everyone should leave." He went to Changal gambling house today and lost all his money, and he still owed a large debt. He was afraid that the gambling house would ask him for money, so he hurried back and prepared to get some travel expenses and go to other places to avoid debts. I am not in the mood to pay attention to Mr. Liu at all. He just wanted to wait for village chief Wang and others to leave, then take the banknotes and a change of clothes and leave the capital. It's just that village chief Wang and the others haven't moved yet. Another male voice came from the door of the yard. Hey, why are there so many people here? It's quite lively. Xia Daking's face turned pale when he heard the voice of the visitor. He had already run back as fast as he could. How did the people from this gambling den come so fast? How did Xia Daking know that the people in the gambling shop let him leave on purpose? He owed so much money, and the people in the gambling house guessed that he would definitely go home, pack up his things, and leave Beijing to avoid debt. The reason why I let him go was to follow him home so that I could go to his house to collect debts. Xia Daking thought he left the gambling house without anyone noticing, but he didn't know that as soon as he left Changal Square, someone followed him secretly. Ling Chu raised his eyebrows when he heard a familiar voice. Looking back, I found that he was an acquaintance. Standing at the door of the courtyard is Hu Basian, who has had a close relationship with him before. Miss Ling, why are you here? Hu Basian, who was walking into the courtyard with a step, looked shocked when he saw Ling Chu in the crowd. Thinking of Jin Yiwei's murderer, Hu Basian looked around subconsciously. He breathed a sigh of relief when he discovered that Commander Ning did not come to Xia's house. With Ning Chui away, Hu Basian's confidence returned and he walked towards Ling Chu with 5 or 6 thugs behind him. Miss Ling, what are you doing at Xia's house? Ling Chu glanced at him with a half smile and said softly, I'll do whatever you want. That Xia Dongqiao was a gambler. As soon as he came back with his front foot, Hu Basian chased him with his rear foot. Thinking with his toes, he also knew that Hu Basian came to Xia's house to collect debts. Hu Basian looked surprised. Miss Ling, are you here to collect debts too? That's right. Hearing Ling Chu's answer, Hu Basian felt bad. Thanks to Zhao Yilin and Zi Yan for the reward. Thank you Ling Long transparent heart. AE, MJ, holding an umbrella and waiting for others to return, 202106052037498283, Hongmen Yizun, Haitang. CE, 124021853448862, 202303061958333531, 20230601621658, Zhao Yilanzian, 120-402-185344,862 Book Friends Recommendation Votes. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 94. Chapter 94, Evil-Hearted. Hu Basian never expected that when he came to the Xia family to collect debts, he would meet Miss Ling who also came to collect debts. I don't know how much money the Xia family owes Miss Ling. If she wants to take away all the Xia family's money, how will he explain it to Manager Tao of Changelfang? Ms. Lu didn't know Hu Basian. She just heard Xia Daking asking everyone to leave. She was afraid that Ling Chu and Xia Ji would take away everything in the box, so she hurriedly walked over dragging her sprained foot. Dad, that dead girl took away all the deeds and banknotes from the house in Xia Ji. You can't let her leave. Summer solstice. Xia Daking came back in a hurry, thinking about how to escape from Kyoto to avoid debt. Apart from village chief Wang, he didn't even notice who else came to his house. At this time, after listening to Liu's words, I discovered the summer solstice in the crowd. Seeing the return of Xiaji, Xia Daking's first reaction was to be happy. He was the one who sold Xiaji. Xia Daking was naturally not happy that his niece had escaped safely from the traffickers. He was happy that since the summer solstice was back, he could sell it again. I have to say that Xia Daking, MRS Lu and MRS Zhang are indeed a family, and all three of them are the same vicious-hearted beasts. Xia Taking was so happy that when he saw the familiar box in his niece's hand, his face suddenly darkened. Xiaji, how can you rob your second aunt's things? Give the box to your second uncle quickly. Xia Taking looked serious and wanted to step forward and the box from Xiaji's hand. Xia Taking is the backbone of the Xia family. Seeing that he is back, MRS Zhang, MRS Lu and their two children all feel that their confidence has returned. The whole family gathered around and prepared to work together to the box back. Mr. Gao was afraid that Xiaji would suffer a loss, so he wanted to step forward to stop him. Seeing how this family went too far, village chief Wang frowned and shouted angrily, "Xia Taking, what are you going to do? Your eldest brother and sister-in-law have gone, and they only have a single child like Xiaji. Don't you want to help your eldest brother take care of this daughter, instead sold her to human traffickers, and now want to steal her family property? You have to show your conscience, you are worthy of your elder brother and sister-in-law." Xia Taking frowned. How could village chief Wang know that he sold Xiaji? Although MRS Zhang was angry at village chief Wang for meddling in other people's business, she could see that MRS Gao and the others were watching. She said with a sullen face, "This is all a misunderstanding. That girl Xiaji saw that her second uncle and second aunt did not agree with her marrying someone else as a concubine, and out of anger, she lied and said that her second uncle had sold her to a human trafficker." MRS Lu also licked her smile and said, "Xiaji is still young and ignorant, so she cannot understand our painstaking efforts. We are not trying to rob her of her family property, we just want to help her keep it. This silly girl brought an outsider back to her house today and smashed them all up. I don't know if she was deceived by their sweet words. We are doing this for her own good. If someone else defrauds her of all her money, her parents may not be able to live at ease down there." What Lu said was almost like saying that Ling Chu was a liar who defrauded Xiaji's family wealth. Xia Taking had long regarded Xiaji's family's money as his own. He originally planned to transfer the dozens of acres of land left by Xiaji's parents to his own. But now he owes the gambling house a large amount of money, and Hu Bassian has chased him to his home, and he must pay back the money he owes to the gambling house. But his family couldn't afford so much money to repay the gambling house, so they could only use Xiaji's family's fields to pay off the debt. After Xia Taking made up his mind, he hurriedly said to his niece, "Xiaji, give the box to your second uncle quickly. We will keep it for you to prevent your family's fields from being defrauded by others." Xiaji was betrayed once, and now she has a very clear mind. She can clearly distinguish who treats her well and who wants to harm her. Miss Ling is my savior. Don't criticize me here. Also, I can take care of my family's things myself, so I won't bother my uncle and aunt. Seeing that Xiaji refused to hand over the box, Xia Taking lost his patience and planned to step forward and the box back by force. Xia Taking was worried that Xiaji was going to run away with the box, so Xia Taking motioned to MRS Lu and her two children to come forward and stop her. This Xia family's shamelessness simply refreshed Ling Chu's cognition. "Why, do you and your family want to rob this girl?" Lu had suffered so much at the hands of Ling Chu today, and she was already very angry with her. Now that Xia Taking, the backbone, is back, he doesn't take her seriously at all. He scolded her with a straight face, "What's yours? This is our Xia family's business. Why are you, an outsider, interfering here?" Hu Bassian and the thugs saw Xia Taking trying to grab the box, but they did not stop him. With that said, he turned to Xiaji and said, "Did you see that this person is here for your money? Don't be fooled again." Xiaji rolled her eyes. Her second aunt thought she was stupid and couldn't tell who was lying to whom. Ling Chu smiled mockingly at MRS Lu, "Do you think so many people here are fools and can be deceived by your sweet words? Xiaji is mine now, and her things are mine. I can use my own things. Lie." Xiaji was born and grew up in our Wangjia village. Everyone knows that she is from our Xia family. How did she become yours? Speaking of which, I have to thank you and Uncle Xiaji for this. If you hadn't teamed up to sell her to the traffickers, I wouldn't have had the chance to buy her from Boss Yao and the others. She rescued Xiaji, but the Lu couple were greedy and shameless, so Ling Chu did not let them know about it to avoid causing more trouble. Sure enough, when they heard that Ling Chu had bought Xiaji, no matter it was MRS Lu, Xia Taking or MRS Zhang, they all felt it was a pity. Xiaji is from Ling Chu, so their plan to sell her again failed. Ling Chu had the deed of selling Xiaji in his hands, and now he had directly exposed the fig leaf they were wearing. MRS Zhang knew that their family's affair with selling Xiaji could no longer be concealed. She simply stopped pretending. He said to Ling Chu with a sullen face, "You can take that girl Xiaji away, but you must keep the house deeds, land deeds, and field deeds in her hands. They were purchased by my eldest son Xia Yuxin. Although it is a pity that Xiaji cannot be sold again, now I don't care about that much." Xia Taking looked at Ling Chu and Xiaji with gloomy eyes. Hu Baxian and the others were still staring at him eagerly. No matter what, he would get the things from Xiaji's house today. Xia Taking snorted coldly in his heart, so what if Xiaji belongs to that girl? They are just two women with no power to restrain a chicken. This is Wangjia village, and it is in his own home. Even if he snatches the box away directly, what can he do? Xia Taking was approaching Xiaji, and he didn't even bother to find excuses. He said coldly, "Xiaji, give the box to your second uncle." Seeing that Xia Taking's family was shameless and started grabbing the box, Hu Baxian and the thugs he brought did not stop them. Instead, they stood aside and watched the show with their arms folded. Thanks to 2023061958333531, 20230601621658, Haitang. CE, 854-729, SICN SI Pros. BA, Chayan and other book friends for their votes. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 95. Chapter 95 Shameless. Outside the capital. On the official road, a group of more than a dozen Jinyi guards wearing flying fish uniforms and embroidered spring knives on their waists were riding horses and rushing to the capital. They met a man who was also wearing a flying fish suit and was riding a fast horse in a hurry. When he saw the other party and his group, the man looked overjoyed. Hurrying forward, he quickly stepped forward and bowed his hands to the serious-looking man in the lead. "I've met you, sir." Ning Chui pulled the reins and stopped the horse, frowning at Wei Feng opposite. "Why did you leave the capital?" Wei Feng did not expect to meet Ning Chui as soon as he left the capital. He said quickly, "Sir, my brothers saw Miss Ling leaving the capital with the maid she rescued from Boss Yao." Hearing that Ling Chu was leaving the capital, Ning Chui had no reaction and waited expressionlessly for Wei Feng to continue. Ning Chui said nothing, and the dozen or so guards behind him were also silent. There were 10 people and a dozen horses standing opposite, but the scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Wei Feng suddenly felt a pressure coming towards him. Seeing that Ning Chui was still waiting for his next words, he swallowed quickly and said cautiously, "Miss Ling's maid is called Xiaji. I heard that Miss Ling took that maid back to the Xia family." Seeing Ning Chui looking at him expressionlessly, Wei Feng's heart tightened and he quickly speeded up his speech. "My subordinates heard from their brothers that Hu Baxian left the capital with several people, and they also went there. It was the Xia family. The subordinates were worried that something might happen to Miss Ling, so they thought of rushing over to take a look." After finishing speaking in one breath, Wei Feng's heart was hanging in the air. The imperial treasury was empty, and the emperor valued Miss Ling very much since he knew that she could use hexagram skills to find hidden silver that even the imperial guards could not find. The emperor also told the commander to pay more attention to Miss Ling every day and not to let anything happen to her. Your Excellency is leaving the capital for business. Before leaving the capital, he was told to pay attention to Miss Ling's movements. Wei Feng handed over the matter to his subordinate Jin Yiwei. The Jin Yiwei, who was responsible for keeping an eye on Ling Chu's movements, originally thought that she was just a little girl who stayed at home, so he didn't pay much attention to her. Unexpectedly, Miss Ling not only left the house but also took a maid with her and left the capital alone. The Jin Yiwei was worried that something might happen to her, so he hurriedly informed Wei Feng. Wei Feng didn't pay much attention at first, but when he heard that Hu Baxian suddenly left the capital with someone like Ling Chu, he hurriedly chased him out of the capital. Yin Sha frowned when he heard that Ling Chu only brought one maid out of the capital. Although Miss Ling was not completely unable to protect herself, but that Hu Baxian was not a good person, and he also brought several thugs, and they were outside the capital. If Hu Baxian had any evil intentions, it would be bad. Yin Sha, who had always been silent, suddenly said, "Sir, nothing can happen to Miss Ling." Ning Chui said nothing, pulled the reins with a sullen face, and turned the horse's head. It is true that nothing can happen to Miss Ling. There is no money in the treasury, and the emperor has long been dissatisfied with the greedy moths in the court. Maybe it will not be long before the emperor will start to clean up a group of moths. There are some officials in the court who dare to take risks even though they know that corruption is forbidden. Naturally, they are very cautious in what they do. Those who are greedy for money will go to great lengths to hide it. As Jin Yiwei, although they are used to ransacking homes, they also have a lot of experience collecting silver. But sometimes they will inevitably fail to find where the money that has been corrupted is hidden. The emperor sometimes not only stipulated the amount of money they would seize, but also set a time limit. Although they have rich experience in searching, it is not an easy task to find the amount specified by the emperor within the specified time, and sometimes they are inevitably exhausted. Miss Ling can use hexagrams to calculate the location of the hidden silver, which can help them reduce a lot of difficulties. Wei Feng was stunned when he saw that Ning Chui was going to Xia's house to find Miss Ling in person. Your Excellency goes out to Beijing for business. When you return to Beijing, you have to enter the palace as soon as possible to reply to the emperor. He thought that even if the adults were worried about Miss Ling, they would at most let him take people to the Xia family, and he would go into the palace to see the emperor. I didn't expect that instead of returning to the palace, Your Excellency would go to Xia's house in person. Seeing that Wei Feng was still in a daze, Yin Sha glared at him angrily. If you don't hurry up and lead the way, why are you still dazed? You'd better pray that Miss Ling is okay, otherwise I'll see if your skin will be peeled off. Come down. Wei Feng smiled bitterly and did not dare to complain. The Lord asked him to pay attention to Miss Ling's safety before leaving Beijing, but he was not dedicated enough to this matter. It's just that he didn't expect that Miss Ling would stay in the capital and suddenly leave the capital alone with a maid. Wei Feng sighed, resigned to his fate, and rode forward to lead the way for Ning Chui. Hu Baxian saw that Xia Daking's family was shameless and wanted to rob Miss Ling's maid's family property. He was happy to see the result, and stood aside with the few thugs who followed him to watch the fun. Xia Daking owed a large debt to the gambling house. If his niece took away the contents of the box, Xia Daking probably wouldn't be able to spend so much money to repay the debt. Privately, Hu Baxian hoped that Xia Daking could the box. When he got the box, he asked Xia Daking to use the money to pay off the debt. As for whether Miss Ling and her maid would be bullied by Xia Daking's family, Hu Baxian didn't care. Even if the commander knew about this, he would not be afraid. Xia Ji is from Ling Chu, but he is not the one who robbed her family property. After all, he took the contract from Xia Daking to pay off the debt, instead of directly robbing Xia Ji, so he can't be blamed for this. When Ling Chu saw Xia Daking, Lu, and two children approaching, he laughed sarcastically. Why, You don't even want to lose face and want to rob me directly. Xia Daking didn't respond to Ling Chu's words. Although he didn't want to spread the news about robbing his niece's family property, he couldn't care so much now. Hu Baxian has been watching with so many thugs. Although he has not asked him to pay off the debt, he knows that Hu Baxian will not let him go if he cannot get the money. Those who owed huge gambling debts to Changelfang and could not repay their money had their hands chopped off or their hand tendons and hamstrings broken. Those who could not bear the pain of being disabled eventually committed suicide. Humanity is nothing compared to one's own life. For the current plan, the most important thing is to pay off the debts with the money in Xiaji's hands. His elder brother and sister-in-law are all dead, leaving only a girl like Xiaji. After paying off the gambling debt, he will marry that dead girl far away. In a short time, no one will remember that he once robbed his niece's family property. Xia Daking had a good idea, but he didn't expect that Ling Chu was not the helpless girl he thought. Seeing Xia Daking and Lu family surrounding them and trying to grab the box in Xiaji's hand, Ling Chu pulled Xiaji over and pushed her behind him. He quickly took out a small hammer from his sleeve pocket, raised his hand, and aimed it at Xia Daking's knee. Xia Dongqiao was startled when he saw the hammer. He wanted to warn his father to be careful. It's a pity that it's too late. Xia Daking felt a sharp pain in his knees and fell to the ground with a scream. Silver Star, China Fuse, Yang Linting, 20210605203749283. Holding an umbrella and waiting for people to return home, the sky is blue. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 96. Chapter 96 Worry in Vain. Sir, this is the Xia family. Wei Feng galloped ahead to guide Ning Chui. Now Hui saw Xia's courtyard from a distance and hurriedly pointed it out to him. Along the way, Wei Feng silently prayed in his heart that nothing would happen to Ling Chu. At this moment, I arrived in front of Xia's house. I didn't seem to hear any movement, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But before he could even breathe, a scream suddenly came from the Xia family, and Wei Feng's heart suddenly skipped a beat. It's broken. Could it be that something happened to Miss Ling? If he fails to do the things that the adults have ordered him to do well, he will be punished. In case the emperor knows, I am afraid that it will affect the adult. Several princes in the court were already jealous because the emperor valued their lord. If they knew that the emperor was dissatisfied with his lord, they would not know how much trouble would be caused. The more Wei Feng thought about it, the heavier his heart became. Ning Chui heard the scream. Although his eyebrows furrowed, the expression on his face did not change. But Wei Feng did not relax because of this. Their Lord Ning sometimes became more expressionless the angrier he got. He will not be able to figure out whether he is angry or not. Wei Feng was feeling uneasy. Seeing that Ning Chui had already dismounted and walked towards the Xia family's yard, he quickly dismounted and followed quickly. Ning Chui stepped into the Xia family's yard and saw the two gates lying on the ground. Her eyes were stunned. But his attention was quickly attracted by the movement in the yard. Xia Daking was unprepared and was hit in the knee by Ling Chu's hammer, and fell to the ground immediately. Xia Dongqiao trembled in fright when he heard his father's scream. He didn't dare to step forward to grab the box again, but subconsciously ran back. It doesn't matter whether his father is angry or angry. Xia Dongqiao is getting married next month. He is afraid of being hit by a hammer again. If his leg becomes lame, the woman may make a fuss and break off the engagement. He was reluctant to part with that marriage and did not dare to offend Miss Ling again. When Ms. Lu saw her husband was injured and her son ran away again, she roared angrily and pounced on Ling Chu. Hands went straight to Ling Chu's delicate face, intending to scratch it all over. Ms. Lu had a wonderful thought, but Ling Chu was not a fool to stand still and let her scratch her. Seeing Ms. Lu rushing towards him angrily, Ling Chu took 2 quick steps and ducked to her side. His right foot quickly stretched out towards Liu's soul. Lu knew something was wrong when she saw Ling Chu move away. Afraid of missing the mark, she subconsciously wanted to stop. But when Ms. Lu saw her husband being knocked down by Ling Chu, she was filled with anger and threw herself at him with all her strength. At this moment, he couldn't hold back his momentum at all, and he pounced forward fiercely. Liu's pounce accidentally knocked Xinghua, who was about to attack Ling Chu from the opposite side, in front of her. Xinghua was pressed down by her mother's fat body and hit the ground hard, and she screamed immediately. This was not over yet. Her face, which could not even be called delicate, had a mark scratched by Ms. Liu's nails, causing her to scream again in pain. When Ms. Lu found out that she accidentally hit her daughter, she tried to avoid it. But he didn't succeed. In a hurry, he twisted his foot again. The injuries were getting worse, and she almost couldn't even stand up. Village Chief Wang and Ms. Gao saw that Xia Daking was trying to steal Xia Ji's family property regardless of face, so they originally wanted to stop him. Unexpectedly, Miss Ling looked so weak that she knocked down Xia Daking's family in a few seconds. This meeting was so shocking that I haven't recovered yet. Wei Feng stretched out his hand to wipe the sweat from his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he underestimated Miss Ling's ability, which caused him to worry all the way. Seeing Xia Dongjiao running away without a clue, Wei Feng kicked him back angrily. Ning Chui stood at the gate with her hands behind her hands. She stared at the thin figure for a while before walking in. Ling Chu turned his head subconsciously when he heard the sound of Xia Dongjiao falling to the ground. Seeing Ning Chui appear with a group of Jin Yiwei wearing Fiyu uniforms, he was stunned. Here, Ling Chu was still guessing about Ning Chui's purpose. Unexpectedly, he walked directly to her, lowered his eyes and said softly, "Do you need help?" Ling Chu glanced at him in surprise. Although he didn't know why he appeared, he shook his head and said, "No need." Ning Chui was not surprised, and nodded slightly, "That's all right, you continue." Ling Chu looked at him puzzled, what on earth did this person do? He hesitated for a moment, but couldn't help but ask, "Is there something wrong, sir?" Ning Chui shook his head, "Nothing, I'll just take a look." Ling Chu was speechless. What did this man bring all the way here with a group of royal guards to see? Could it be that he came to see her beat someone up? Ning Chui ignored the doubts in her eyes and scanned everyone in the yard one by one. Even though Village Chief Wang and Ms. Gao did not recognize him, they had already guessed their identities when they saw the python robe on his body and the people wearing flying fish suits behind him. They were already uneasy when they saw these legendary Jin Yiwei, and then they were swept away by Ning Chui's gaze. I was so frightened that my legs went weak, and I knelt down with a thump. Just before he had time to kowtow in greeting, Ning Chui had already said quietly, "Everyone, please get up. There is no need to be polite." When Village Chief Wang and the others heard this, they quickly stood up obediently. Hu Basian was about to kneel down, but when he saw Ning Chui's cold eyes, his heart tightened with fear, and he quickly brought the thugs over to greet him. "I've seen the commander." Ning Chui said nothing, just looked at him coldly. Feeling the pressure coming from the other side, Hu Basian groaned secretly in his heart. How come I always meet this god of death wherever Miss Ling is? Just when Hu Basian almost couldn't withstand the pressure and was about to kneel down, a light hum finally came from above his head. Hu Basian breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed his body and led his men to the side. After retreating, Hu Bakay found himself breaking into a cold sweat. He was extremely glad that he had not done anything to Miss Ling. When Ling Chu met Ning Chui and asked him to take a look, he really just watched quietly from the side. Twitching the corner of his mouth, he ignored him. He turned around and asked Xiaoji, "Are you all ready? Is there anything missing?" Xiaoji had already taken inventory and shook his head when he heard this. "There are many. I have found all the things my parents left for me." "That's good." Xiaoji felt a little uneasy when he saw the commander. He guessed that he had something to do with Ling Chu. Since she no longer wanted to stay here, she hurriedly said to Ling Chu, "Girl, let's go back." As soon as Xia Daking heard that they were leaving, he became anxious. "When I saw that adult and those royal guards, I was frightened." He couldn't care less about it at this time and hurriedly winked at his mother, Mrs. Zhang, and told her to find a way to get the box back. Although Mrs. Zhang was also afraid of those Jinyi guards, she thought that her family had not committed any crime. So he became bolder again and stepped forward to stop Ling Chu. "You can take them away during the summer solstice, but those banknotes and deeds belong to my family and must be kept." Thanks to Qianxiao, 20230601621658, 2023030619583351, Pros. BA. Votes from book friends such as 2021030176471181708, Yanya Riverside, 20210605203749283, etc. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 97. Chapter 97 Not Biological, First Update. Chapter 97 Not Biological. Xiaoji didn't expect that even though her parents were gone, her mother would still want to her things. He was so angry that his eyes were red. "Milk, this is what my parents left me. They said before they were alive that these will be used as dowry for me in the future." Xiaoji didn't understand why her grandma was so kind to her second uncle's 3 children, but she didn't like her since she was a child, even though she was her granddaughter. Now even the only money she has with her is going to be taken away. She never thought about how she would live her life if they took away everything. Xiaoji didn't understand how there could be such a heartless grandma in the world. Facing Xiaoji's sadness and anger, Mrs. Zhang didn't care at all. All she saw was the box. "Do you still care about me, although those things are all left by your father? Your father is my eldest son. Now that he is gone, you are not allowed to support me on your father's behalf. Since you have become someone else's maid now, you won't be able to support me in the future, so those things left behind will be used as support for me in my old age." Xiaoji frowned. Although she hated her mother, she thought that she was always his father's mother. Although her father is no longer here, as his daughter, she should help him support her. If she takes everything away without caring about it, not only will she scold her, but probably the people in the village will also scold her. It was okay to scold her, but she didn't want her father to be scolded for being unfilial after his death, saying that he left all the family property to his daughter and did not give his mother any money for old age. Just when Xiaoji was preparing to get some banknotes and leave some fields for her milk, it was considered as helping her father to provide for his mother in her old age. However, Ling Chu stopped him and said, "I can't give it to you." Xiaoji was stunned for a moment, then became ashamed. The girl rescued her and took her in as a maid to give her a place to stay. Now even her life belongs to the girl, and her things naturally belong to the girl as well. She really can't give a girl's things to others. Mr. Zhang was originally moved by Xiaoji, but unexpectedly she was stopped again. Although he hated Ling Chu so much that he gritted his teeth, he did not dare to do something to her. This girl looks very weak, but she shows no mercy when she hits someone. Her son, daughter-in-law, grandson and grandson were all helpless against her. Mrs. Zhang was afraid that her old arms and legs would be hit by the hammer, or she might trip and fall. She can't help this old bone. Also, I don't know what the relationship is between Miss Ling and those wolf-like and tiger-like Jin Yiwei. If she tried to the box, she would probably have to pay for her old life if she was caught by those royal guards and thrown into jail. Mrs. Zhang didn't dare to be tough, so she sat down on the ground and secretly pinched her thigh. Then he reached out and wiped away the tears that had squeezed out, and burst into tears. Yuxin, you are unfilial. I worked so hard to give birth to you and raise you so big, but you left me alone and helpless. Seeing Mrs. Zhang at such an old age, slumped on the ground crying so miserably, some young women couldn't help but feel soft. Xiaoji, it's not easy for you to breastfeed. Although your father has passed away, Mrs. Zhang is still your father's biological mother. It's also right to help your father provide you with milk to support you in your old age. When Mrs. Zhang saw someone speaking for her, she felt happy and immediately cried louder. Ling Chu smiled sarcastically at Mrs. Zhang. You said that you are the biological mother of Xiaoji's father, Xia Yuxin, and the biological grandmother of Xiaoji? Mrs. Zhang, it's hard for you to live to such an old age and you still lie. Aren't you afraid of thunder from the sky? Split. Mr. Zhang stopped crying and was shocked, looking at Ling Chu with a look of surprise and uncertainty. Village Chief Wang and the others looked puzzled. What does this girl mean? Why don't they know what Granny Zhang said? Even Xiaoji looked at Ling Chu with a puzzled expression. Mr. Zhang was so shocked that she even forgot to cry. Countless thoughts flashed through her mind. Why did this girl ask her if she was Xia Yuxin's biological mother? Could it be that she knew something? Soon Mrs. Zhang suppressed this suspicion again. It was impossible. Xia Yuxin is dead, and not even the entire Wangjia village knows what happened back then. This Miss Ling is just an outsider, how could she possibly know? Thinking of this, Mrs. Zhang's panic calmed down again. Miss Ling, what do you mean by this? Xia Yuxin is my biological eldest son, and of course I am Xiaoji's biological grandmother. No one in the entire Wangjia village knows about this matter. Village Chief Wang and the others did not know what Ling Chu meant, but they did not refute what Mrs. Zhang said. Xia Yuxin is indeed Mrs. Zhang's eldest son, and Xia Daking is the second. Everyone in Wangjia village knows about this. Ling Chu glanced at the confident Mrs. Zhang, smiled, and dropped a bomb. You lied. You are not Xiaoji's biological grandmother at all, and Xia Yuxin is not your biological son. Village Chief Wang and others looked at each other in shock when they heard Ling Chu's words. Xiaoji subconsciously wanted to say that Mrs. Zhang was her own mother, but when the words came to her lips, she swallowed them down. Although she didn't know what the girl meant, she believed that the girl would not harm her. There must be a reason why the girl said this. Mr. Zhang's face changed drastically. She glared at Ling Chu and wanted to tear her alive. What nonsense are you talking about, girl? If I am not Xiaoji's biological mother, then who is Xia Yuxin's biological mother? Although Mrs. Zhang felt a little uneasy, she thought that Xia Yuxin was dead and no one knew her identity. She said that Xia Yuxin was her biological child, so no one could refute it. Ling Chu's cool eyes glanced at Granny Zhang's old face, which was pretending to be calm, and dropped another bomb. You are not Xia Yuxin's biological mother at all. Xia Yuxin's parents are other people. His biological father is Xia Dazu, and his biological mother is Feng. And you are fake. Mr. Zhang's heart tightened, and she stared at Ling Chu in disbelief. Who is this Miss Ling? She is not Xiaoji's biological mother. Even Xiaoji doesn't know about this. Why does this girl know so clearly what happened so many years ago? Xiaoji looked at Ling Chu in confusion, wanting to deny her words, but suddenly remembered that her grandma had been sarcastic to her since she was a child, but she loved her second uncle's 3 children very much. I couldn't help but suddenly became suspicious. Could it be that her were really not kissable? Xia Daking listened anxiously to Ling Chu and his mother's words. This matter cannot be admitted. If it is really exposed, he will have no reason to take Xiaoji's family property. Xia Daking wanted to strangle that girl Ling to death. If it weren't for her, he would have taken the money and left Beijing to avoid debts. How could he be blocked by Hu Baxian's group? Although he was angry, Xia Daking did not dare to take action again. Although the commander of the Jinyaiwei and the Jinyaiwei didn't say anything, they were watching eagerly from the side. Thanks to book friends such as Kinkinko, 20230306195833531, Zhe who finds it difficult to communicate, pros. BA, 20210605203749283, 20230601621621658 and so on. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 98. Chapter 98 Evidence, Second Update. Xia Daking could only pretend to be righteous. Girl, I don't know where you heard this nonsense, but Xia Yuxin is indeed my biological eldest brother. Both my eldest brother and I are my mother's biological sons. Village Chief Wang and the others all know about it. Those village women who were watching the fun, although they didn't like Granny Zhang, could not deny that she was indeed Xiaoji's biological mother. Miss Ling, Xiaoji's father and Xia Daking are indeed the sons of Mrs. Zhang. When Mrs. Zhang saw that no one doubted her, her uneasy heart fell back. Wiping away tears, she cried out, "Girl, you can't talk nonsense about things that have no evidence. You can't just make up these nonsense just to stop Xiaoji from giving me money for my retirement." In order to prove that she was not lying, Mrs. Zhang asked Xiaoji, "Xiaoji, I want to ask you, did your parents tell you that Nai was not your father's biological mother? Did they ever tell you that Nai was not your biological mother, someone else?" Xiaoji wanted to say no, but when the words came to her lips, she hesitated to say them out. Originally, she had never doubted that her grandma was not her biological father, but what the girl just said made her suspicious. Xiaoji was puzzled when she thought that her mother had not liked her since she was a child and treated her differently from the children of her second uncle's family. In the past, she always thought that her mother didn't like her because her mother had a difficult delivery when she gave birth to her, which made her unable to get pregnant again. She blamed her for causing her mother to be unable to give birth to a son for her father. But the girl's words made her suspicious. Even if she resents her for causing her mother to be unable to have a son and doesn't like her, she is still her father's only flesh and blood. If her mother was really her father's biological mother, how could she bear to see her unconscious and sold to human traffickers without stopping her? Seeing her come back from escaping from the clutches of human traffickers, he didn't even say a word of concern, but he also helped his uncle and aunt to obtain the family wealth that she relied on for a living. The more Xiaoji thought about it, the more suspicious she became. Are you really my biological mother? If so, why have you hated me so much since you were a child? Knowing that my second uncle and second aunt sold me to human traffickers in order to seize my family property, why didn't you stop me? Is it really me? Seeing that she was aroused by Ling Chu's words, Mrs. Zhang was so angry that she put one hand on her chest and wiped her tears with the other. "Girl Xia, it's not that I don't like you, I just can't bear it. Your father died so young, before he even had time to give birth to a son to carry on the family line. As soon as I saw you, I thought of your father and felt sorry that he had no children. I felt so uncomfortable that I couldn't eat or sleep. In order to stop thinking about those sad things, I have to try to see you as little as possible. I know this is not good, you have been wronged. But you can't doubt that they are not kissable just because of this." Seeing that Xiaoji pursed her lips and said nothing, Mrs. Zhang added, "If your parents knew better and knew that you suspected that your mother was not your father's biological mother, how sad they would be." Even though Mrs. Zhang's words seemed reasonable and her expression didn't seem to be hypocritical, Xiaoji couldn't help but feel suspicious. Perhaps Ling Chu had saved her life, and Xiaoji felt that she would not lie to him. Seeing that Mrs. Zhang had said so, Xiaoji's dead girl still looked suspicious of her. She slapped her thigh with her palm and burst into tears again. "Son, I gave birth to you and raised you, but you asked your mother to give birth to a woman with white hair and give birth to a woman with black hair. You are using a knife to dig out your mother's heart." Mrs. Zhang felt that Xiaoji was just a little girl, and no matter how annoyed she was, seeing that she cried so miserably and sincerely, she would not be able to help but feel soft and would never doubt her again. Just as Mrs. Zhang was crying vigorously, a loud noise suddenly came from the yard. Even though they heard several loud noises today, everyone in the yard was still startled by the noise. Looking at the sound, it turned out that a large vat placed in the corner of the yard had been smashed into several pieces and scattered on all sides. Seeing the familiar little hammer that fell next to it, Xia Daking and Liu's eyelids jumped at the same time. He stared at Ling Chu with a look that wanted to eat her alive. Mr. Zhang looked at the broken vat in confusion, her mind racing rapidly. She always felt that the girl's purpose in smashing the big vat was not simple. But she thought about it again and again, but she couldn't think of anything wrong with the big vat. She almost lost count of how old this big vat was. It was originally used to hold water for washing vegetables and cooking rice. Later, the large tank cracked several times and could no longer hold water, so it was moved to the corner of the yard. Mr. Zhang didn't know why Ling Chu smashed the vat, but when she thought that the vat was empty and didn't hide anything inappropriate, her uneasiness disappeared. As soon as Madame Zhang finished speaking, Ling Chu suddenly said to Ning Chui, "Master Ning, can I lend you 2 people?" Ning Chui glanced at her and had no objection. In order to make up for his mistake, Wei Feng pulled out another Jinyai Wei and volunteered to help Ling Chu. "Miss Ling, if you need anything from us, just give us your orders." Ling Chu nodded and pointed to the big vat that was smashed just now. "Dig up the soil under the big vat." Mrs. Zhang frowned. She didn't know why she wanted to dig up her yard, but she felt a little uneasy in her heart. Lu was originally confused about Ling Chu's digging, but when Wei Feng shoveled down, she suddenly remembered what she had buried under the vat. With a pale face, Mrs. Lu dragged her injured leg and hurried forward to stop her. "This is my yard, you can't dig it." Ling Chu picked up the small hammer and quickly stepped in front of her, saying slowly, "I said Mrs. Zhang is not Xiaoji's biological mother. Didn't you say I have no evidence? Are you feeling guilty, that's why you won't let her dig up?" Mrs. Lu shuddered subconsciously when she saw the small hammer. Although she didn't dare to step forward anymore, she put her hands on her hips and shouted angrily, "Why do I feel so guilty? Whose evidence will be buried in the soil? Aren't you fooling around? Since you don't feel guilty, just wait and go." Ling Chu remained unmoved and still stood in front of Lu, shaking the small hammer in his hand threateningly. Although Mrs. Zhang didn't know what was under the big vat, seeing Mrs. Liu's anxious expression, she quickly gave Xia Daking a wink. Xia Daking didn't know what was buried in the soil, but as Liu's pillow, he guessed from her expression that there must be something wrong in the soil. Xia Daking ran over quickly and wanted to Wei Feng's shovel away. But with a look from Ning Chui and a flash of Yin Sha's body, his way was blocked. Yin Sha lived up to his name. Xia Daking and Liu's husband and wife were so frightened that their legs were weak when they saw the evil spirit on his body that they did not dare to step forward to stop him. Wei Feng and another Jinyai Wei's men swung their shovels very fast, and it didn't take long before they discovered what seemed to be a board in the soil. Using a shovel to carefully dig up the soil, Wei Feng pulled out the piece of wood, but was stunned on the spot. "Is this a spiritual tablet?" 2 updates are presented today. In the last few days, the ranking has dropped to the bottom after an update. It's so miserable. Dear friends, can you cast a few votes to support this? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 99. Chapter 99. There is a puppet. Hearing from Wei Feng that a spiritual tablet was dug up, village chief Wang and the others only felt that it was bad luck. The moment Mrs. Zhang saw the spirit tablet, she wanted to faint on the spot. It's just that although she is not young, her body is still strong and she can't faint even if she wants to pretend to be dizzy. Hey, here's another piece. Wei Feng dug up a spiritual tablet, and another Jin Wei also dug up a piece. Xiaoji saw two spiritual tablets dug out in the yard of her second uncle's house. After being stunned for a moment, she hurried over. Seeing Xiaodazu and Feng on the two spiritual tablets, Xiaoji was completely stunned and her mind was in chaos. This is her grandpa's spiritual card? Her are actually fake? As for her second uncle, is he also fake? Since it was a lie, why did her parents never tell her that her mother was someone else? Also, why is the memorial tablet of her biological grandfather buried in the yard of her second uncle's house? Xiaoji had a lot of questions in her mind, but she didn't know who to ask. Ling Chu took the two spiritual tablets from Wei Feng and walked towards Mrs. Zhang. Mr. Zhang's heart suddenly jumped up, and she quickly gave Mrs. Lu a look, suggesting that she come out to stop her. Unexpectedly, Mrs. Lu not only did not dare to come out, but also kept shrinking towards Xia Daking's back. Mr. Zhang was so angry that her old teeth almost broke. At first, she asked Madame Lu to take the two spiritual tablets outside to deal with them, but her daughter-in-law was so lazy that she buried them in the yard. Ling Chu punched two spiritual tablets in front of Mrs. Zhang. Look, this is the evidence you want. You said that Xia Yuxin is your biological eldest son. Do you dare to swear on these two tablets? When Mrs. Zhang saw the two tablets, she dodged guiltily. But then I thought that Xia Yuxin was dead and no one could prove her identity. Mrs. Zhang's courage came back. It's just two broken pieces of wood. I don't know who secretly buried them while we were not at home. Xia Yuxin is my biological son. Don't think of digging up two pieces of wood just to slander me. As he spoke, he wiped his tears and started crying again. Son, why did you go away so early and leave your mother alone and helpless, being bullied and even being questioned as a lie? Mother can't lie anymore. Why don't you come back and take your mother with you? Mr. Zhang cried miserably, which made those who heard it sad and those who heard it shed tears, but Ling Chu was not moved at all. Xia Daking also said to Xiaoji with a dark face, since your parents left, your second uncle and second aunt have been taking care of you, but you have joined forces with outsiders to slander your mother. Aren't you afraid that your father will be sad underneath? Look. For the sake of the family, you can take 50 taels of silver and follow the girl. Your father promised before his death that he would give you milk to support you in your old age, and those fields would be reserved for your milk. It doesn't matter if you don't have filial piety, but don't bring about the infamy after your father's death. Your mother had a narrow escape to give birth to your father, and she went through all kinds of hardships to raise him, and even married him to your mother. This is all a huge achievement. Although your family's little land is not much, it can be regarded as a reward for your father's milk. Originally Xia Daking didn't want to give even half a penny to his niece, but he felt that Miss Ling was really evil. Even he didn't know that there were two spiritual tablets buried in the yard, and he didn't know where she got the news. Xia Daking felt a little uneasy, always feeling that something big would happen. After hesitating for a moment, Xia Daking decided to endure the heartache and give up 50 taels to send Xiaoji and Ling Chu away. Xia Daking was thinking about how to use the Xiaoji family's money to pay off Hu Baxian's debt after they were sent away. Little did he know that Ling Chu had lost his patience. Seeing how shameless Mother Zhang and Xia Daking were, Ling Chu knew that there was no point in talking, so he directly exchanged 2 drops of cow tears from the system mall and flicked them to Mother Zhang and Xia Daking respectively. Mrs. Zhang was crying hard. She stretched out her hand to wipe the tears from her face. When she opened her mouth again, she was stunned. What's that next to it? Why do you look so much like Xiaoji's mother? But this shouldn't be the case. Her mother was already dead in the summer solstice. How could she still see her? She must have been crying for so long that her old eyes were blurred. Mr. Zhang stretched out her hand to wipe her eyes again, and looked again, and found that not only did she see Xiaoji's dead mother, but even Xia Yuxin was standing aside. Mother Zhang's eyes straightened, and she subconsciously looked at the feet of the two of them. When she saw Xia Yuxin and his wife floating in the air with their feet off the ground, Mrs. Zhang couldn't help but feel the fear in her heart. There is a puppet. Mr. Zhang was so frightened that her whole body trembled. She got up on her hands and feet, turned around and wanted to run away. Over there, Xia Daking also saw Xia Yuxin and his wife. Although he didn't run away, his calves kept trembling. Seeing the reaction of the mother and son, Xia Yuxin and his wife looked at each other, and immediately rushed towards them with a sinister aura. Xia Yu had a good-natured nature before he was born, but Xia Daking was frightened by the evil aura all over his body. Seeing him rushing toward him, he hurriedly stepped back and shouted with a smile, "Brother, what are you doing? Came back. Since you left, I have been so sad that I can't eat or sleep well, and my mother almost cried her eyes out." Xia Daking originally thought that by playing the tenderness card, Xia Yuxin would miss the old relationship just like before when he was alive. No matter what dissatisfaction he had with him and his mother, he would continue to tolerate it. Unexpectedly, Xia Yuxin's puppet soul didn't listen at all this time. He rushed forward and grabbed him by the neck. "Xia Daking, you beast, I saved you and your mother, but I didn't expect that you, mother and son, not only killed me, but also killed my wife. In order to seize my family property, you sold my daughter to human traffickers. You really deserve to die." Xia Yuxin felt regretful when he thought about the past. He was so angry that he strangled Xia Daking's neck. Mr. Zhang originally wanted to run out of the yard, but there were two guards guarding the door. Seeing Xiaoji's mother, Chen Xiniang, floating towards her with her feet off the ground, Mrs. Zhang was so frightened that she shouted, "Ms. Chen, don't come over here. I'm your mother-in-law, you can't do anything to me." She originally wanted to hide away from Mrs. Gao and the others, but Mrs. Gao and the village women who were watching the excitement saw a gust of wind blowing where Mrs. Zhang passed. They were so frightened that they did not dare to let her get close. She could only run around in the yard like a headless fly. Mr. Zhang was old and couldn't run fast at all. She was blocked by the ghost of Chen Xiniang in a few seconds. Seeing that she couldn't escape, she could only shout to Xiaoji's mother in a fierce voice, "Ms. Chen, I am your mother-in-law. If you attack me, aren't you afraid of thunder?" Chen Xiniang's temperament was quite docile during her lifetime, but she did not expect her temperament to change drastically after her death. She said to Mrs. Zhang with a sinister tone, "I'm just a dead person, so what should I be afraid of? It's you who have done so many things, and you are the one who is the thunder, the one who deserves to be beaten. You old pious woman still has the nerve to say she is my mother-in-law, bah! What kind of mother-in-law are you, a person who repays kindness with hatred?" Thanks to book friends 20230530115415940712976, Silver Star, 854-729, Mimi Yang 98, Pros. BA, 20230601621658, 2021060520374928 China Fuse, Carat Omega Carat, Meow, Yuan Yu, 2023061958333531 and other book friends. Vote. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 100. Chapter 100 Confession. Chen Xiniang's ghost was full of resentment towards Mrs. Zhang at this time. He rushed forward, grabbed her hair, and slapped her face with his backhand. Village Chief Wang and Mrs. Gao could not see the ghosts of Xia Yuxin and his wife. They only saw Xia Daking rolling his eyes and feet flying in the air, as if someone was grabbing him by the neck and lifting him up. There was obviously no one around Mrs. Zhang over there, but she heard a slap in the face, and her old face was visibly red and swollen. Everyone was frightened by this strange scene. Ling Chu walked up to Mrs. Lu with two spiritual cards, pointed at Xia Daking and Mrs. Zhang and asked, "Ms. Lu, do you know what is going on with your husband and mother-in-law?" That's when the ghosts of Xia Yuxin and Chen Xiniang came back to take revenge. If you don't want to die, tell everything you know. Ms. Lu glanced at her husband who was being choked, and then at her mother-in-law who was still being slapped. She swallowed in fear. Seeing that she wanted to speak, Xia Daking struggled furiously over there, and finally noticed that Xia Yuxin's grip had loosened a little, and yelled at Ms. Lu, "You can't say it." As soon as Liu's words reached his mouth, he swallowed them back. Seeing that she looked hesitant but refused to speak, Chen Xiniang was so angry that she pinched Mrs. Zhang's neck. Chen Xiniang was filled with hatred when she thought about how her originally good family was ruined by Zhang Chunyue and her son. Perhaps Mrs. Zhang has done a lot of evil things in the past and has a guilty conscience. In addition, now that I am older, I am more afraid of death than when I was young. As soon as Chen Xiniang's ghost grabbed her neck, she rolled her eyes in fright, fell down with a thump, and fainted. Mrs. Lu didn't know that Mrs. Zhang was just frightened and fainted. She thought she was strangled to death by Chen Xiniang's ghost. She was so frightened that she trembled. Ling Chu glanced at Mrs. Zhang expressionlessly, then turned to ask Mrs. Lu, "How about it? Do you still want to hide it?" Lu swallowed her saliva and hesitated in her heart. "My mother-in-law is dead now. If she confesses what her husband did again, he may not be able to save his life. It doesn't matter if she loses her mother-in-law, but she cannot lose her husband, and the child cannot live without a father. As long as she grits her teeth and refuses to admit it, there may still be a glimmer of hope." After thinking about it clearly, Mrs. Lu looked aggrieved and said, I don't know anything." Ling Chu didn't expect that Mrs. Lu was so scared that she still refused to say anything. She could only wink at Chen Xiniang's ghost. Chen Xiniang immediately floated to the west wing and pushed open the two ajar doors. Mrs. Liu's 5-year-old son was sleeping in the west wing. When she saw the door of her little son's room opening without wind, Mrs. Lu turned pale with fright. However, Ling Chu was still standing aside and said coolly, "Your family killed Xiaji's father and mother, and in order to seize their property, sold Xiaji to human traffickers. Now they have come back for revenge, and Chen Xiniang has now entered the west wing. If you don't explain everything you have done, you won't know whose turn it will be next." Mrs. Lu swayed, knelt down with a bang, and shouted to Ling Chu, I say, let Chen Xiniang come out quickly. As long as she doesn't harm my son, I will say anything." "Really?" Ms. Lu nodded desperately, "Really, I won't lie to you. As long as you let my 3 children go, I will say anything." Ling Chu turned to Chen Xiniang who was standing in the west wing and said, "The child is innocent, can you let her go first?" Although Chen Xiniang hated the Lu family and Mrs. Zhang, she did not really attack the Lu family's children. Mrs. Lu didn't know that the ghosts of Ling Chu and Chen Xiniang were trying to scare her. She was relieved when she heard Ling Chu said that Chen Xiniang had promised to leave her little son alone for the time being. Mr. Lu may not care about her mother-in-law's life or death, but she can't be cruel to her son. In order to save the life of the child, she no longer cares about the life of her husband. Ling Chu pointed at Ning Chui, who was sitting next to Ma Jin Dao, and said to Lu, "That is the commander of the Jinyi guards. If you want to save the child's life, tell everything you know." Ning Chui raised her eyebrows and glanced at Ling Chu. She didn't expect that she would drag him into the water, but she didn't say anything. Ms. Lu glanced at the adult tremblingly and nodded in agreement. It's just that their family has done a lot of things, and at this moment, they really don't know where to start. Ling Chu shook the spiritual tablets in his hand and said, "Then let's talk about these two spiritual tablets first." Ms. Lu swallowed her saliva and was so frightened when she saw Ning Chui glance over at her coldly that she hurriedly said, "This is the memorial tablet of Xia Yuxin's parents." Ling Chu, so, your mother-in-law is not Xia Ji's biological mother. Ms. Lu shook her head, "No, Xia Yuxin's parents are other people, namely Xia Dazu and Fen named on this tablet." Hearing Liu's words, both village chief Wang, Gao's villagers and Xia Ji were all surprised. In order to save the child's life, Mr. Lu told everything. Xia Ji's biological father, Xia Yuxin, suffered a flood in his hometown when he was a teenager. Although he was lucky enough to survive, his relatives around him were all gone. In order to survive, Xia Yuxin decided to go to Kyoto to make a living. Walking alone to Beijing, Xia Yuxin experienced countless hardships. On the road, he met a group of victims fleeing famine. Not only was his food taken away, but his head was also broken. Due to a head injury, he lost part of his memory after waking up. Fortunately, there was still a little money hidden in the solace of his shoes. With that little money, he bought some food and continued on the road. When Xia Yuxin was resting in the ruined temple, a mother and son came in from outside. When they saw him, they hugged him and cried bitterly. The mother and son cried and said that they were Xia Yuxin's lost mother and younger brother. Xia Yuxin, who had lost his memory, saw the two of them hugging him and crying sincerely, and he had no doubt about it. This mother and son are actually Mrs. Zhang and Xia Daking. What Xia Yuxin didn't know was that these two people actually escaped from the same place as the group of victims who robbed him of his money and broke his head. After the victims left, Mrs. Zhang suffered a sprained leg and foot, and the mother and son fell behind. Unexpectedly, they saw Xia Yuxin again on the road. The mother and son did not expect that this man would still have food on him after he was robbed. They guessed that he must still have money on him. It was discovered that he had lost his memory after being injured, so the two penniless people came up with a plan and decided to pretend to be Xia Yuxin's family. Xia Yuxin, who had no idea about it, saw them crying sincerely, believed them to be true, and happily brought his mother and brother to Beijing. Along the way, relying on the little money they had, the three of them finally reached the capital. But because there were too many disaster victims coming to Kyoto, the officers and soldiers guarding the city did not let them enter the city. Instead, they resettled them in some villages around the capital. When the officers and soldiers were arranging household registration, they heard that Xia Yuxin and the mother and son were members of the same family, so they settled the three of them in Wangjiakan. It has fallen out of the list, sad. I'm crying and asking for votes. How far this book can go depends on how strong your support is. I hope you all will continue to vote. End of this chapter.